Hello, everyone. I am Kevin Ressler. I'm President and CEO of United Way of Lancaster County, the host of today's 2-on-1 Day, also co-hosted here by United Way of Pennsylvania. We are so excited for those of you who have made it to the end of the day. If you were in the first session and you've made it all the way through all the sessions, you win the 2-on-1 prize of thank you. I have no gifts to give, but I thank you anyway for participating all day. Really hope that you've enjoyed this day. I've enjoyed this day. I'm literally energized by it. I've been doing this all day and just still am like pumping out super energy because just you all have shown up. There have been hundreds of people today, literally hundreds of people today, and you all have had great questions. Thank you to all the panelists throughout the day. So this is our last session of the day, and this is the one I'm potentially most excited for because this is about 2-on-1. It is about transformation for our community members. It is about innovation. Before I go even further, you're going to see today is wholly unique. It is going to really significantly reorient the way in which we can show up for communities and our partner agencies. And to that, we wouldn't be at this point today if it wasn't for significant financial support from the High Foundation, from Abilities in Motion, and from Don and Susan Meyer. I just want to thank those particular groups and individuals for getting us to here, and invite those of you who are on this call, particularly those of you who are interested in sort of software and transformation to consider making a contribution towards this particular effort, this software development and innovation. You can reach out to me if you'd like to make those kinds of contributions and be a part of that conversation. So without further ado, I am going to start off by getting us right into it. Hi, Robin. I just said thank you to the High Foundation, who is the largest supporter of this work. So thank you so much for being here. But you can also turn off your camera because we'll have the presenters go, and then we'll bring back in people for conversations later. But that was perfect timing. Thank you, Robin, from the High Foundation. So thank you so much. So what is this? What are we going to talk about here? We are going to talk about a piece of technology, and Chad here, who's the lead developer, often says software needs to serve people. People shouldn't serve software. And what 2-on-1 does, you've learned about this all day, we connect people to resources. We are information and referral. The problem that we are trying to solve here is closing the loop. Knowing that when we talk to someone and we send them on their way with information, that they've received those services. How well were they served in the process? And at what point in time did they receive what services? Where are they going in the system? Are they showing back up a year later? Having that kind of closed loop system, we've talked about data all day long. Data without a full understanding of what points it connects to are just stars in the sky. This is about creating the constellation, painting the picture of what individuals need, where they're going, and how we can get them to the place that we want to see them succeeding in. And so this pilot came about because we realized that 2-on-1 was doing things like duplicate entry because of a contract here. We're helping this housing agency there, and we have to put information in 2 systems. Because as a former director of a couple social service agencies in my life, I've been part of leadership, understanding that our systems often require specialization, that we can't participate in other systems collaboratively, and that there needs to be ways of connecting those so that we can get our information into our best location for our product needs, or for our customer needs, our CRM, and others can enter into their CRM and not have to use someone's particular program, right? But using what agencies need. And so we realized that there's a way to do this in modern technology called APIs, connecting organizational information through the back end of systems, but also being able to reach out directly to organizations to provide them supported project. And that's what this pilot that you're going to see here, it came about doing. And so what we're doing is not pioneering something new. It is transforming the information and referral model. And you're going to see that here. And so I'm going to step out of the way, and I'm going to introduce Julie Kennedy, who is a teammate here. She started in 211 upstairs in a loft, and then the pandemic hit. So now she's at home in her loft and still doing the same excellent work. Her position changed, so she's doing some regional management of the Greater Lehigh Valley. And what that is pertinent to this conversation is she's learned not just what the challenges are in Lancaster's nonprofit organization systems, but in other communities too. And so she's been brought in to help Chad think through a lot of these challenges with a solution-oriented focus. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Kevin, so much. And hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Julie Kennedy, and my title is way too long for me to go through the whole term of it, but I am a regional manager for homeless services in the Lehigh Valley. The way that I got to the United Way, and I shared in my bio, is through court-ordered community service. So I had worked in the contact center environment previously for many, many years, over a decade, close to 15 years. And I learned a lot about customer service as well as contact centers, and have a very detailed understanding of how those types of centers work and the value behind a phone call, the value behind excellent service, and what that means to people, and why it's so important today to focus on that again, because we've strayed so far from just good service. So I'm going to share my screen because I have some slides. So bear with me while I get that set up for us all.
While Julie's setting that up, I'll just say my name's Chad, and I'll talk to you a little bit later, but thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Julie, because I'm originally from Lancaster County, so I have an affection for Lancaster, and started Partnership Planners, which we'll talk about a little bit about in a second, out of higher education. For 20 years, I worked in higher education, and we're trying to solve a problem there to connect with community partners. So it's a little bit about my background, and Julie's going to walk us through kind of the current state of INR and a person-centered model.
Yes, sorry about that, Chad. I was way too excited about my PowerPoint presentation.
Don't you worry.
So what we talk about a lot is a person-centered model. And what does that mean? What that means is that people are at the heart of what we do at 211 and what we do at the United Way. They're also at the heart of the call. So we have people that are calling in, our neighbors in the community, and we have specialists who are answering those calls. So there's a lot of heartbeats that are involved in this model and in this process. So when I was thinking today about the term person-centered, I think about how you call a service line, you call a customer service 800 number, and you get that long menu that no one wants to ever have to deal with, and you're pressing all these numbers, and you ask your friends, how do you get to a live person? What do I have to do to get to a live person? Because we all inherently need connection. We need to explain to a human, a live person, what's going on in our lives, and for them to anticipate what we need and to know how to respond to that, it's invaluable. And that's what an INR specialist, you'll hear different terms of what we call them, but it's really just the heart of 211, that person answering the call. They have so much training behind their trade, and it is truly incredible the work that they do. When someone calls 211, they're immediately met with empathy, with compassion, with understanding. In my field of work, I once heard someone say, and it just stuck with me, that we believe the people that we serve. Just for someone to say, I believe you, is such a powerful thing. And another powerful thing to say to someone in response is, how can I help you? And behind that statement, when someone is calling 211 and someone's answering, there's truth, there's honesty, and the people that are doing this work day in, day out really do want to help our community members. They receive, as I said, intensive training in active listening, rapport building, trauma-informed care, de-escalation. It's not just parking someone in a chair and giving them a set of headphones. It's so much more than that. And there is so much energy and effort put into those trainings. The person-centered model also has a commitment to people. It values and acknowledges the importance of each person. As a 211 specialist, when I was there for the, I think, year and a half that I was answering calls, I often stayed well beyond the time that I was scheduled to speak with just one person and listen to them, and was never a question why I did that. It was always met with, thank you for staying and taking the time out of your schedule to do that. So, neighbor, why do I use the word neighbor, and why will you see this throughout Referral Tracker? So I came into the project, I don't know, maybe little less than a year ago. And some of the first prototypes and replicas, prototypes that we were seeing with Referral Tracker, I noticed the ones section said referee, which read to me as referee. And I sat there like, what should we be calling people that we're working with? Because that comes up in social work with, are they a client? Are they a consumer? Are they this? Are they that? And I came up with this term neighbor. It's not a term, it's an actual fact. The people that social workers are caring for day in, day out, the people that we interact with and have those conversations with every day, they're our neighbors. And that's what I like to see now when we go through the Referral Tracker, is that is an intentional marker for the person sitting in front of the screen to remember that that is our neighbor. That's not just a name on the screen, it's a person. It also reminds you that the person that you are helping is no different than the person that is helping. They're on a similar level playing field. I did also recognize, as my time at 211 ended, it was right around the right at the start of the pandemic. And it really, the pandemic, what it did for me at 211 is show me just how much the community needed each other. There were so many more calls coming through, and a lot of people just wanted to talk. They just wanted to say, they wanted information at first, but when we were, kind of devoid of some of that information as well, it became just a conversation and just telling each other it's going to be okay. Another term that we hear within this whole presentation is going to be INR. So what is INR? What's information referral, as it's termed? And it was actually developed in the late 60s and 70s. And it was based around something called referral interviewing, which is a way of active listening, you could call it. So in these times, there weren't computers. If you can imagine a card catalog, if you're that age, might be aging myself, but if you can think of a card catalog in a library, the information and referral specialist would write down what that person needed and go to this big cabinet and get this card out and then bring it over and copy it down in pencil, paper, or pen for that person. So they did not have any way of knowing what could happen to this model and how it could evolve and change for our times. And in that time, the referral was just a resource. It wasn't, there was no ability, that person did not have the capability of actually directly referring that person in the means that they would have really liked to. So the referral tracker does that for us. So it creates what Chad will show you as an end-to-end referral system. So it will take the referral to the time that that resource specialist sends it through their CRM and then goes straight to that service provider, that service partner, and they can leave that call, they can end that call with the knowledge and that affirmation that the referral will be received, and the person that they're calling, that neighbor, will be responded to and taken care of. The referral tracker, it's interoperable with other systems. Another thing that Chad will be showing you. So it takes a lot of the burden away from the service provider and from 211, so that they know that those APIs that we talk about are doing their job and allowing us to do our job better. I know Kevin likes the term leveraging, so I threw it in here. There we go. What 211 and United Way are doing with our service providers are leveraging legacy. So we're putting our money where our mouth is and saying the stamp of approval is put on this software. We believe in it. I believe in it. I know that Chad and Kevin do too. When trust is put into the United Way and to 211, it's a big thing. There's, especially with your information and putting yourself out there as a service provider, you want to be assured that that information will be provided to the community in the way that you want it to be. The United Way of Pennsylvania has been building relationships since 1966. I read on the United Way Global, their webpage the other day, this isn't your grandfather's United Way, right? So sure, it's not the grandfather's United Way, but it's kind of cool that it was around when my grandfather was here. And it's cooler yet that it was around when my great grandfather was here. So longevity has leverageability. It's also a legacy. So yes, I like words, and I like that all of them are starting with L. The improvement to our existing model is natural for service providers. So what we're doing, it makes the service providers, their availability opens it up to 24/7, 365. So your client, we'll say client here, but it's really our neighbor, they can be connected to you as a service provider and have a referral sent any time of day. How awesome is that? It also provides those resource specialists. There's many, many more of the 211 resource specialists than each service provider has in administrative assistance. So those times that you spend on the phone with individuals who are trying to reach you or leaving messages, that's being handled by someone that's trained in active listening, empathetic listening, and sending that referral straight to you through Referral Tracker. Recently, Kristen Rotz mentioned the human infrastructure of 211, and I loved that so much because it's our greatest strength. The human infrastructure of 211 is what sets it apart from anything else. And it's what service providers are already confident in and can know that going forward, it's going to just keep surprising them and making them proud even more. It's the fresh mortar to our foundation. It's already there. All right, Chad, you can take it away.
All right. I hope all of you could sense like Julie's contagious enthusiasm. It's a treat, honestly, Julie, to be able to talk with you each week. And I just really deeply admire your work and all of your work. So I'm going to kind of build off of what Julie was talking about with INR and show you a different slide deck. So I'm going to share my screen here. Just one second, and we'll get started with this. The one thing we were talking about is with INR is, and this is like kind of the current state versus where we're headed. Currently, INR more accurately stands for information and resourcing in our current model versus information and referral. And what we're trying to do is get to close the loop on making a referral in that 211 experience. So within this process, I'm just going to situate this idea of a referral design and a referral system within a bigger structure, navigation design. And navigation design here is where we have human navigators, we have different types of services and intervention types, and different types of referral platforms. These be CRMs, customer relationship management systems, or robust databases, lots of different tech in this space. And what I think is really important is Michelle Schulmate put this together just last year in a pretty comprehensive study of navigation design across the Commonwealth. And she says this: the moment calls not for the adoption of a single technology platform, but the development of data standards and the use of APIs to coordinate existing technologies in Pennsylvania. And for those of you who are not techie types, APIs, it's really an acronym to describe the way that information is shared from one system to another. It stands really for application programming interface. That's what an API stands for. And it's like a thread that moves data out of one system and into another one securely. So what Schulmate's talking about is the need for connecting these systems, not one system to rule them all, but rather a kind of connected web of relationships. So what this pilot is doing is looking at three big things that I'm going to walk you through: closed loop, interoperability, and no wrong door approaches to establishing an active ecosystem of service providers in Lancaster County specifically, and in 211 East. So this is where we're headed here. We're closing the loop, and we're trying to actually move from information and resourcing, which is really kind of the state of affairs, where we're trying to provide information to folks when they call 211, but we're trying to make an active referral, which I'll describe a little bit more here in a second. All of this is really critical to understanding some of the data and digging into metrics. I'm not going to run through all of these things, but just so you can see, when we start to develop systems and establish systems that are making direct referrals to service providers and placing people within services, we can actually start to track really important metrics around the referrals. Here are some of them. There are also quality control metrics that we can better understand, the quality of interactions with folks. We can start to assess that and understand how the services are impacting not only our neighbors, but our providers. Demand metrics. We can start to see gaps between where our neighbors are in need and where the service providers are. Understanding and knowing where these requests are coming from. Supply metrics. This is really critical for us to know, do we have enough services? Do we have a saturation of services? Are there desert areas where folks are really in need but are not getting those things? And then larger, bigger things like system impact metrics. This is where we get into like social determinants of health and other kinds of pieces that are really vital for lots of other systems, not just social service systems, but lots of other systems that are interconnected. And for our policymakers that are on the call today, all of this is trying to make data-informed decisions. If we can better understand the breadth and the scope of what's happening and what kind of referrals are out there and whether or not they're being accepted and picked up and how long that takes, all of these demand metrics can help us get to places where we can start to see trends and potentially even get into what are called predictive analytics. But before we go too much further down that rabbit hole, I want to give you a quick overview to what you're going to see here in a second, and the pilot that we developed in Lancaster County with the United Way. In conversations with the United Way, we determined there were actually 4 different types of service providers. And I'm going to refer to them in terms of tiers. So you'll see tier 1 service providers. These would be folks that have like robust technology, robust CRMs, databases, potentially even customized or specialized databases. But what makes the difference between a tier 1 provider and all of the others is that they have what are called REST API connectivity capabilities. So these particular systems, they're often very expensive. They can be very cost prohibitive for small providers. Even though they're punching way above their weight class, they just can't afford some of these systems that actually have REST API connectivity and are able to share data back and forth to create kind of like care networks of all the folks that are involved in our neighbors' lives to supply them with what they need. So we're going to talk about a tier 1 participant in our pilot, and that is with NavWell. And Advanced Metrics is the group that has been providing them with their internal kind of management systems. And we'll talk a little bit about how the referral tracker is moving to a partner with a tier 1 pilot. And special thanks to Kate Gallagher's on the phone or on the call right now as well with Advanced Metrics. But what I'll show you is not just API connections, but also web applications, cloud-based web applications that serve tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 providers. Tier 2 providers, we're talking about folks that may have a customized database. They may be delivering a specialty service, but they don't have REST API connectivity. They can't connect their system with another system. Tier 3 providers, and some of you out there may resonate with this. You might be working off of like a FileMaker Pro or some kind of Excel, Microsoft Access database. It's kind of a generic database. It might be doing what you need it to do, but it's not able to connect with others very easily. And lastly, those of you who are working with in the very local, on the grounds with very limited resources, you might be using spreadsheets and you might be using pen and paper. And let me just tell you, there's a place for that. Just so you understand, I've been around the block a little bit, and I know when you need pen and paper, you need pen and paper. But what we're trying to figure out is how do you systematically get to a place where you can share those things where it's not a burden, right, on your personnel and staff to do duplicate, triplicate entry. And eventually, if we can start sharing information across an ecosystem, it becomes extremely powerful. I do need to say this. The referral tracker is not trying to replace existing technology. That's not its purpose. It's trying to connect existing technology. And it's trying to provide new opportunities for folks that just don't have it. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. I'm going to be showing you what we call end-to-end tracking. And it's very important before I get into the live demo that you understand I'm looking at 2 different kinds of workflows. One is a referral workflow. That means that a neighbor has identified that they have a need and that they're willing to seek help. And then a match is made between that neighbor's need and a service provider that can meet that need. And then we want to have the neighbor give feedback on that service provided. So that's actually the service provided in this workflow is the referral process. It's the ability to be heard by the specialists that Julie was talking about and connected. That's the referral part. There's a related but very different process, and that's the enrollment workflow. That's where a neighbor is actually enrolling with a particular service provider and providing documentation. That's where they're getting the service, and that's where they're giving feedback on that service. So it's important that you know I'm trying to parse out 2 distinct workflows, and the one at the top is the one that I'm really leaning in on. And then through REST APIs, we're actually going into the enrollment workflow at the bottom, but that's through an automatic kind of like automated system. So just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that I'm going to be talking about no wrong door. And what that means is that you're going to see in the referral tracker how anyone in the ecosystem, and when I say ecosystem, these are the 600 plus organizations in Lancaster County's database at the moment, who could make referrals to each other through this system. This is not where you've got one clearinghouse gateway. In its current state, you have to call 211 and go through the call center, which can get congested. We know that. It can be prohibitive for folks. We're trying to figure out lots of different ways where there isn't any wrong door. If you're serving someone in, say, with food needs, but you know your neighbor also needs a job and your neighbor also needs housing, there should be a way for you to make a referral to those folks right directly through something. And that's where the referral tracker comes in. I'll show you how that works. There's also the automated kind of system here that I'll be explaining. And that's where your neighbor calls 211. A 211 INR specialist makes the referral in their system, which currently is called RTM Navigate. If some of you out there work in this, you'll know. But out of that system, the tracker actually automatically is pulling data through an API. So this is the first part of interoperability. We're working with a separate system that currently handles all of the United Way's calls for help and making referrals. That information is pushed to the referral tracker, and then we can then push that out to service providers. And in this case, if it's automated for tier ones through an API, we're looking at NavWell, and they're able to make a connection then with neighbors who receive health services within their network. So they're a robust network of several providers across counties. So that's important to know how that works. I wanted to just give you a quick preview within RTM when a request comes in. And I know this is very small, so apologize for that right out of the gate. But when a request comes in, information is collected within RTM, and you can see that here. As we continue to go through, this particular request is for wraparound facilitation and community support. And so Community Services Group is listed, and they are the group that is connected with NavWell. And so this particular referral would have come through and gone into NavWell's API when that's connected. This is the information that is in the system about that service provider. Well, in NavWell's system, then it goes out of RTM through planners and into NavWell. There is a little referral button here where you can actually see this top record is the person who came in through 211. So this is a
Hey, Chad, real quick. It's a little hard to read. Can you throw the slide, play from current slide on the slideshow? That'll make it a little bit bigger for us.
Make it
play from current slide.
Right.
On the slideshow.
Oh, hang on one second. Let me back out of that. I'm going to go down here. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So Myra Hutchinson is the record that's coming through here. And what you'll see then in the referral tracker is Myra's record also being referenced here. So it's showing up automatically from the call all the way through the service provider, and then also tracking in the record where you're able to see Myra is being walked through several steps through a service provider. And I'll take you in a live walkthrough of that. And this is where what it looks like when it's totally completed. Now, here's where we're going to get into the, I'm just going to get out of this real quick and switch to the live demo of the referral tracker. Here we go. Share my screen. Okay, can you all see that so far? Just like nod your head.
Looks good. I love that picture of Lancaster.
You're
There
good.
it is. Okay, so now we're live, we're online. Planners has an SSO sign-in. So this is a single sign-in authorization that allows you to use multiple different kind of products at the same time. In this system, we are looking at the staging environment for our planner trackers. So what's important to know here is as we're in the staging environment, these are calls that are coming in through 211, and lest anyone be alarmed, they're faked, okay? So these are not actual names. These are not real names. This is not really where JC is from. But what is important to know is that this is real. Someone did call today at 1:35 for income support and using the VITA program in Lancaster County. So what you're able to see here is a live or 5-minute delay feed from RTM into our system. And you got some basic information about that referral. And if we accept it, you can leave a little note. Right now, I'm just going to put in here test. And this note can be seen by your neighbor. What that means is when somebody actually just pushed a new referral record through, but when somebody orders a pizza from Papa John's, you can actually see when that pizza comes out of the oven. You can see when you go to pick it up. You know that it has been picked up. Same kind of thing here. JC, if she wanted to see where the status of her referral was at any given time, she could log in because we're contacting her via text or via email, whatever she provided, to help her understand where this particular referral is in process. This is also happening, like I just showed you, automatically through other workflows, through other systems. These things are changing within existing workflows. So that's also happening at the same time. If you don't have a way to automate it, you can simply sign in to the referral tracker, and it's a cloud-based system that you have access to. Once it's accepted, now the contact needs to happen for the neighbor. So somebody, let's say VITA has accepted this, and when you click contact neighbor, oftentimes those of you who work with folks day to day, you know it can be very difficult to reach people because lives are really busy and it's hard. So if your neighbor wasn't reachable, you could toggle this over and you could say left a message and hit confirm. So this then changes to yellow to illustrate that you tried to attempt a contact but weren't successful. It's also important to know that a log of what's happening is down here, date, time stamp, so you can see and circle back so nobody falls through the cracks. And we try again to contact and made a connection, hit confirm, and now we go to services provided. And at this stage, what we mean is that the referrals part of the service has been provided, not actually that the VITA program has fulfilled their part. That's the difference between the referral part and the enrollment part. So a meeting has been scheduled. Confirm. And then this record goes into archives over here under past referrals. You can see that record is right there. The other thing I want to show you is you're able to make a new record. And in this case, I'm presenting to you from Harrisburg, so that's why this looks a little different. but you're able to create a referral searching by phrase. If we do food, you click search. There's a number of different resources that will come up here, and as you're toggling, it will the map will change, kind of show you what's available in the area, and you can make a referral. This gives the eligibility for that particular referral, so we don't make bad referrals. And in this referral, you're able to complete basic information, fill out the referral, and there's also a place to customize kind of a needs assessment. And that will help us understand what urgency or how to optimize that in the referral queue for the particular referral that's being made. This could be anything from a housing needs assessment to a food needs assessment to whatever. But it shifts from, say, the first come, first serve model to a more, I think, important model, which is the those in most need, right, through an assessment. So once this has been made and the referral has been submitted, it actually shows right back up here in the active referral list. And then you can run through the whole list. But I just also want to show that for those of you out there with PA 211, the data dashboard is linked right into the referral tracker. So when you click the data dashboard, you're able to see here over the past year, how many calls, how many requests. You can actually drill down into different areas, like under sheltering, low-cost housing solutions, and get by zip code. You can look at any of the congressional districts, counties, to grab specific data. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that 211 data dashboard is really helpful for research on what's going on, and some of you may have engaged that before. But I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'd like to just kind of spend the last bit here with Q&A, because I know both Julie and I have talked a lot, and what would recommend is if you could put your question in the chat, that would help us. And you can also turn your video on if you'd like to do that. And yeah, just like to field some questions. So go ahead.
So I'll just point out quick, because there was a good question in the chat from Tom at Pocono United Way. That referral tracker, what you could see on Chad's screen was our staging environment. So you saw every single contact that was being made almost in real time with 211 East at the moment. So if you were a service provider, say you were VITA, what we know in the back end is that each one of those contacts has resulted already in a tax appointment scheduling. If VITA were to utilize this referral tracker and instead was having that appointment set up through them, then they could communicate with the neighbor through that platform. But that's just, it's literally right now just sending and showing us every contact that's being made.
And one other to what Julie was just mentioning, if you're an agency, you're not going to see everything that's going through that system. You're going to see what's coming to you. So you were just shown, the sort of de-identified staging environment, that's what 211 would see, because they see all of their calls. In that case, they see the global view. But you as an agency aren't going to see everything that's going through the whole system, because that wouldn't be helpful. You would see what's coming to you.
Other questions or thoughts? I would just say, while we're fielding them and reviewing some of them, It's important to note this pilot is really launched to actually prove something. Like we're actually trying to prove connectivity, prove that these things can work across different systems. Many folks have talked about the possibilities or the capabilities of doing API connections, but actually haven't done them in this way. So what we're trying to do is actually close the loop here and show that in the pilot. It's a very small pilot that we're running in Lancaster with a few cross-sector organizations from tier 1 to tier 4.
Chad, and the question here, Thomas also asked, have you been able to build a list of tier 1 capable providers? And I'll field it a little bit, and then Chad, if you want to jump if I miss anything. But so Thomas, we've been in conversations with a number of them. Part of this work is inspired by the excellent work that's been done here in Lancaster County through what's called Empower Lancaster, which is built off of a software called Caseworthy. And what Caseworthy does is it's an HMIS, regular certified, whatever term, vendor for that homelessness system, right? And so in Lancaster, there was a realization, United Way was part of this conversation, CAP was part of this conversation, the Office of the Homelessness Coalition was part of this conversation, and many others. And we realized the need to be able to share data. And so there's a centralized platform there that was brought together, and referrals happen across different agencies. Now, there are 39 agencies within that system. In 2-on-1, just in Lancaster County, our system connects to 600 agencies, many of whom are not housing, many of whom are not looking for that same tool. And so we didn't want to replace what Caseworthy and Empower Lancaster is doing, because they've done a great job. So Caseworthy is one. We've talked to Ecovia. So part of United Way's process for 2-on-1 is working throughout the different, and Chad, I don't know if you're trying to share your screen there.
Yeah, I am trying to just, while you're talking, I'm trying to get a link out. Okay,
great. So Ecovia is part of, it's a similar program like Caseworthy, but they cover 33 counties for that 2-on-1 East serves in what's called the Eastern COC, so coordinated entry. That's part of the system that Julie works in as well. So being able to connect the housing work in Lancaster to the housing work across the state and scale that is really important, because right now, if someone moves from Julie, give me towns where you've identified this problem to me before.
Would you like all of them?
I mean, like, so you mentioned before, like if someone's in Bethlehem,
to Allegheny, like Eastern to Western continuums are completely, isolated from each other. They're their own. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West and the East, but there's nothing connecting them at the moment, and when it's someone who a lot of the time someone experiencing homelessness is moving around a lot. So we see individuals, especially in the Lehigh Valley, coming down from New York or coming up from New Jersey, and there's no visibility to that.
So being able to connect that tier 1 system of those 33 counties with what Lancaster is doing, with what's happening in York, is really important. And right now, if they've called through 2-on-1 in both places, it'll be in the 2-on-1 system. But if they're in those housing systems without 2-on-1 being a connector, we wouldn't know that. This is a way of connecting those. So we've got Navwell, Chad had mentioned, with Advanced Metrics is another one. So there's a variety of these programs that we are aware of. As Chad also mentioned, it's different levels of readiness to be able to connect to APIs. Most of them proclaim to have one. There's different levels of readiness. There's also, systems like Epic for the healthcare system. So there's a variety of these different systems, which leads me then into Lewis's question there: how many local agencies have or will plug into the system? So we have a number who are already interested, and Chad's going to get into this in a second here. Opportunities. We have a number who are already interested, a number who are piloting, a number who are waiting to hop on. But what's important here is that we are already making these referrals to the agencies, right? So this is not a saying, now we'll make referrals. We're already making referrals to these agencies. And so this provides an opportunity to more quickly and be able to access data on more holistically, be able to access, sort of tracking data and other things in a way that is more directly defined to their so their agency, not just to their broader agency. And so, it's one of those things where it's us bringing an increased tool and set of resources to the work that we're already doing. One of the examples for us internally is that we do a lot of housing work in Lancaster for chart and other things. Right now, we put all that information into our RTM database. And then we have to go and put it into Caseworthy. So we're having to do double entry. Half of our calls are housing. So now imagine just the efficiency. Even if you say no local agency were to ever use this, obviously that's not what our goal is. But even if you said that, we gain significant efficiencies because half of our entry work gets halved, 25% increase in efficiency, reducing call wait times, reducing inaccurate data, duplication, and all those various things. So Sarah, to your question, is it a goal to identify heavy utilizers with this pilot? We would love to use heavy utilizers. So in that sense, housing is our highest priority. Mental health is our second. Chad went to the 2-on-1 counts. You can go down there, and if your industry's at the top, sure. But ultimately, we're glad to bring on any partner that's available.
Yeah, and I'll say, Kevin, to that in working with some of these pilot partners, looking at their data records and their information in the 2-on-1 database, just having that conversation about services, we've added, as far as Melissa with Lancaster Downtowners, we added more service needs to their descriptors, and it actually opened up their agency, their organization, to more callers because it was a time to reflect and look at what that information was as it was stored in our database. So that was pretty impressive.
Thanks. Chad, do you want to mention the link you put in there?
Yeah, I did. So I was trying to share my screen, and then I popped in the chat a link. This is a place for you if you'd like to check out the referral tracker, work with the United Way on this. We'd like to know your interest, and particularly if you're not in Lancaster, I'd really encourage you, if you want more information, please fill this out so we have a sense of who's out there that wants to take a deeper dive in this, wants to dig into it, look under the hood, and go into depth. Right now, we just can't do that in our current context, but we can introduce it to you. But please complete this so that we know. And I just also like to say, at the end of the day, this idea of closing the loop, it's really all about how do we better serve those folks who are in need. There's a lot of burden that's placed on them if they're in crisis, if they're calling and information is being, you could contact these folks. They might not be in the best state to have that burden put on them. And I could imagine if you're an INR specialist out there and you want to see people get help, neighbors who are asking for it, it might be great if you could initiate a referral on their behalf directly to the service providers, and then actually see if in fact these folks are being contacted. That is really, really critical. And right now, there's just like a black hole. We just simply don't know. We're giving a lot of information, really important and good information, and that is a valuable service. But that resourcing doesn't go far enough. We actually have to get to closing the loop on the referral.
Yeah, I said to Chad, oh, sorry, Kevin, just one quick one. That, a lot of the people that I've spoken with while a 2-on-1 specialist, it was everything that they could muster to make one call. And they set aside some of their shame that they might have felt, or just humble themselves for a moment to ask for help. And sometimes it felt, if I was giving them 8 to 10 phone numbers, here you go, here's some people to call, I kind of knew that when they were going to hang up, it wasn't going to go anywhere, because they were just already defeated, and they might have spent just their past hour just talking to me to have a conversation with anyone, because I might have been the only person they talked to that day. But that just security of knowing with Referral Tracker that I would just help. I just sent that person's information to all these different people, and they're going to wrap around that person, would leave me leaving work that day feeling a little more fulfilled, to be 100% honest.
So what Julie just identified, I got a clarification from Sarah. She was asking about heavy utilizers, like as in individuals, not agencies using the system. And so that's actually a really important point, and it ties with what Julie's talking about right here. And I know we're about out of time, so I'm going to say this and I'm going to wrap us up. But think about that. You call, you're into some level of distress. You call 211. Maybe you're calling them on the 30-minute break you have at work. So you don't even have time to make the rest of those calls, even if you have the energy and wherewithal. But in many cases, you're calling, you're hoping to just call one thing, and you're told, hey, by the way, yeah, so your issue that's leading to homelessness is going to move you school districts. Now you have to call the school to enroll your kids. You've got to call this, you got to call that. Here's 8 numbers. Right? Just imagine that. You called hoping for one solution, and they gave you all of the solutions you need, but it's 8 numbers. What this system does is it is allowing us to have that 211 call specialist pressing a button to make the contact to those agencies on behalf of that individual, while also giving that individual agency to know where they are within the system. As Chad always likes to say, why can I order a pizza and know when it's in the oven, know when it's in the road, and know when it's at my front door? But if I'm a person needing services, I don't know where my referral is. Now they'll be able to know where their referral is within that system, and they'll be able to give feedback to that system so that we can continuously improve as agencies, as 211, and as part of this holistic system. And yes, over time, because we'll have a closed loop, I will know that Julie has been here before. 2 years ago. I will know that every other month Julie shows up. Are we helping Julie, or are we silencing Julie's concerns for a short period of time? If the United Way is going to be about systemic change, and we are, and if the agencies in our community is about moving people from need to self-sufficiency, then we have to actually know if we're helping them or if we're just responding. This work is trying to solve that critical question. Are we changing lives, or are we just responding to the most recent need? I thank you deeply for your time today. I thank you for your time in this session. Those of you who have attended other sessions throughout the day, thank you. I thank you for your work in the community. The work that you do saves lives and transforms opportunities. Thank you for that work. If you don't work within the nonprofit agency, your presence amongst your neighbors can change lives and can transform opportunities. Do not underestimate the power you have as a human being living amongst other human beings. Thank you for being here today. And one last massive thank you is to Sarah Yaskoski. Sarah Yaskoski is our director of events, and she planned today. She's done an amazing job. We will miss her as she has taken a new job, and this will be her last week. This coming week will be her last week with us. But she helped us launch a golf tournament for the first time. She helped us launch our community conversations monthly. She's helped us do so many other events and leadership conversations. And this is a phenomenal capstone. She never did an all-day virtual event, and there is no better way to be able to send her off than with the utmost gratitude of a day successfully transforming our community for the better. Thank you, Sarah. I am grateful for having had the opportunity to work alongside you. Thank you, everybody else. Have a wonderful weekend.